Hey, this is Sunday School Rewind. This is Aaron here.
Ira, it's Fariso. Hi.
Hey, I hope you remember us. This is our second episode. If you haven't caught the first one, go back. Listen to Adam and Woman. It's a great series, or it's a great episode. We learned a lot. And then also, we have an animated series. Please go check out. We have our friends, Ross and Sabina. There's some cool cats that have a lot to say, and they're very reactive, but they want you to hear them. And so go check them out on our YouTube page. We'll have that in the description. And what are we going to talk about today?
We forgot to introduce our co-host, kinda, in the background that you all might hear. Yes. That's Zendaya in the background. She has a lot to say.
A lot.
So
just keep her... keep us in our prayers, please. But she's great. Yeah, she'll be in all our episodes.
And so, yes, today we have a new story that we are introducing. The story is Noah's Ark, and we are going to be bringing that to you all in 3 parts. So today is part 1 of Noah's Ark.
Yep, part 1. And so it's pretty much Noah's DIY.
Do it yourself,
Do it yourself, just like an IKEA project. And so we're going to talk about that. We have, what we usually do is we start with a
kid story.
Kid story, exactly.
All right.
And so our lovely actor here, Fariso, is going to...
Let me get my actor voice on. All right. I think I'm ready now.
All right. And so we're going to talk about building the ark, y'all, from 365 Bible stories.
All right. Here it is from the kids' perspective. Genesis 6:9 through 22. But more and more of the people forgot God and stopped loving him. After many years, God became very unhappy. The world was not as he wanted it to be. His people had become more and more evil. He decided to put an end to it all. The world needed a new beginning. God decided to send a huge flood to wash away everything that was bad. But there was a man called Noah who loved God. Noah and his family were good and kind, and God wanted to save them. So he gave Noah very careful instructions and told him to get ready for the flood. God told Noah to build an enormous boat called an ark. He told him to fill it with 2 of every kind of animal in the world. Noah told his neighbors what God was planning, but they all laughed at him because there was not a lake or a sea for miles around. Noah ignored them and set to work on the ark. He worked hard for months and months. He built an ark so big that it was as high as the tallest tree. When the ark was finished, Noah gathered together all the creatures as God had told him. The line of animals went on and on, but soon they were all safely on board. Then Noah loaded the ark with enough food to last a long time. As soon as Noah, his wife, and the rest of his family were safely on board with the animals, God shut the door firmly behind them.
Scene. Give it up around for our actor, Fariso.
Oh my goodness. Can you stay on task?
Oh, sorry.
This is Sunday school.
Sorry, Sunday school. Sorry. This is not an audition.
Thank you.
So the funny part is, like, that sounds so lovely. Like, that story sounds so, like, peaceful. You know, God told him to build an ark.
Yeah.
He's tired.
God was unhappy.
He was unhappy. So he said, just take all these animals and just put them on a zoo cruise.
Yeah.
And, let's just, save all the peace on earth, type thing. And so, like, from a child's perspective, just like everything felt so heartwarming.
Yeah.
But the reality was, like, some stuff was going down.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going down.
A lot of stuff going down. And so let's start from the beginning. So
you want to go to the adult Bible?
Yeah. So now we're going to adult Bible, so you can follow us. We're in Genesis 6, pretty much starting from 6:1 to 6:22, but we'll start probably around 6:9.
Okay.
And that's kind of where we'll be at most of our time. And so let's just talk about the ark itself. Like, God says like build this ark, um, because stuff has happened on Earth, and I just need you to like make something that is big enough to hold pretty much the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and all I can think to myself is like thinking to myself like, but how, God? Like
Mm-hmm.
like how much questioning would you give God based off of what his ask was? Like it just seems like totally impossible.
It seems impossible, but not only that, but it's just like he can't take anybody else with him. He can't take. He said, God says, take your wife, take your sons' wives. So I think about, what about Noah's parents? What about Noah's siblings? What about Noah's cousins? What about Noah's best friends?
Oh,
So I like,
left behind.
yeah. So it's like he had to carry out his mission, I guess, but that must have been like heartbreaking for him to
Oh,
have
it
to.
had to be totally heartbreaking. And then also, I'm just trying to think about the people that saw him building this thing, and they're just
Mm-hmm.
like, "What are you doing?
Right.
Like, what is going on?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, mind you, this arc, they say it's 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Um, if we think about this is pretty much like 2.5 football fields long. You know, that's 450-foot long arc carrying two of every animal.
How big is that in
I
like
mean, let's
put
get
it?
let's
Yeah.
put it in LA language.
Right.
And so that pretty much means that is longer than a home run at Dodgers Stadium, almost the width of Crypto Arena, and about a third the length of Santa Monica's pier.
That's enormous.
Enormous.
Okay.
Okay,
Wait,
and
I think.
so and this took them like decades. It's like this wasn't like
Mm-hmm.
it's not me being building an IKEA like crib.
Yeah.
Like that takes me
Like you
about
did last week. Except you
exactly.
didn't get it from
No,
IKEA,
we
yo.
didn't. No.
Shout out to my sister Niso getting
Yeah,
us that
yeah.
crib.
Please, thank you, because yeah, IKEA would have me messed up. But yeah, that takes like a couple of hours. Maybe a day. But this took decades. We don't know the exact time frame, but people say about maybe 40 years to 75 years, based on some
Mm-hmm.
other scriptures. But yeah, that's a wild task.
Are we gonna read? Are we gonna read some of this? Like, are we gonna read from this adult Bible?
Yeah, I mean, we could take some stuff from the Bible. I mean,
Because you said things was going down. So are we getting ahead of ourselves? Because it says some stuff was going
all
down.
right, we'll
As
read
to
about it.
why? Okay, let's see. Where do I start?
Anywhere your heart
All right,
makes you
we're
go.
let's get into it. Verse 11. Now God saw that the earth had become corrupt and was filled with violence. God observed all of this corruption in the world, for everyone on the earth was corrupt. So God said to Noah, I've decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I will wipe them all out as along with the earth. Wait, what am I missing?
I don't think you're missing much.
Oh wait, no, I did. Okay, sorry. Um
That's all right.
Yeah,
Go
we
back.
gotta rewind. We gotta rewind.
Go for it.
Okay.
Where we at? Tell me what verse we're in, and then we will follow.
Okay.
So Genesis 6.
Genesis 6 at the top of 6.
Got it. 6:1.
Then the people began to multiply on the earth, and daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw the beautiful woman and took any they wanted as their wives. Then the Lord said, My spirit will not put up with humans for such a long time, for they are only mortal flesh. In the future, their normal lifespan will be no more than 120 years.
Wow. God literally cut us short.
Yes. So you can see God is getting
I
fed up.
mean, people were living like 600 years,
Yeah.
and now it's like, nah, 120 is about right.
Exactly. I think I read somewhere that Noah was 500 years old when this started.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so God is getting fed up. He doesn't decide to destroy the earth yet. He's just like, I'm tired of these people. I'm not going to have them here forever.
Mm.
And you can see one of the forms of wickedness that they were having is that these men were just up in here taking these women and doing whatever they wanted with them. So
Yeah, I mean,
men were being trifling to these women.
yes, and if we look at our time frame, it sounds like some of the stuff is still happening. And so it makes me also just think about like, if that was bad then, and we look at our world now,
Yeah.
like, what is he feeling now? like we learn about the end of this,
Yikes.
another episode or another at the end of our series that like what his promises were.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind. I mean, it can be a little bit scary, like God's power is so, you know, it does have a little bit of wrath in it, like it does have a little bit
Mm-hmm.
of like, like I'm very unsettled, I'm very unhappy, I'm very just like not pleased with what I put into earth and what people have used it for.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that when they say like you should have the fear of God, I think it's like this is
Mm-hmm.
what we need to be fearing.
Mm-hmm.
This idea that God has all power and he has the ability to make things come and go as he please. um, and that should make us feel humble that he's not going to do that,
Mm-hmm.
based off what we'll learn later on.
I
um
wonder. Sometimes I struggle when people say fear of God, because I wonder, is that motivating? Like,
I
is fear motivating? Because for me, I don't know. I think about like the love of God. Like, if we can read a little bit more,
mm-hmm,
we read that it says like it broke God's heart, and so for me, that's motivating. It's like, oh goodness,
mm-hmm.
like I don't want to break
Yeah,
anyone's
yeah,
heart,
you don't want
especially not God's heart.
to. Mm-hmm.
Let me read. Let me fast forward to verse 5. I'm just gonna read a little bit. Um, so he shortened their lifespan. Verse 5: The Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. So the Lord was sorry he had ever made them and put them on the earth. It broke his heart. So that to me, so I mean, I get what you're saying about the fear of God, but when I think about like someone who loves me and someone who I love and to break their heart, that is what kind of makes me want to like get myself into like proper alignment to be who it is that I'm called to be.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's on par of how we should be feeling. We should be feeling a sense of peace within our God. Like, we see him as, our father, in a sense of like, we don't want to break our father's heart. We don't want to like make him unhappy. I don't even use a fear. I think about like as a kid when it's like, you go to church all the time, you learn all these scriptures and you're learning what you should do. And it's like, you're filled with like a school of like people that a lot of them don't know Christ,
Mm-hmm.
like, so you're just like in a public area. And like, I think what felt like the fear of God to me, what kept me straight and narrow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't want, if I saw actually it was funny, like I had friends that like they were doing things, like they were in some activity that you know they probably shouldn't be in,
Mm-hmm.
but they would never bring it to me
Right.
because I showed them who I was and what I was doing.
Yeah.
And anytime it even came like amongst me, all I could think about is like, oh, if I do this, God's gonna see me.
Mm-hmm.
God's gonna see me, and ooh, he gonna be mad. Like I'm gonna get like uh a spiritual spanking, like from God. And like,
Let's be real, you were scared of your mama too.
I mean, she, she she set the line, and God handled it, or she handled it and God set the line.
Yeah.
But just like that fear didn't come from a fear of like, oh, like he's gonna harm me, versus like,
Yeah.
oh, like his love and his compassion, the things that he's done for me, and I've seen like things go right when I do right,
Yeah. True.
and so if I do wrong, I feel like, oh, like he's not gonna like, he's not gonna appreciate that. Like that's what the fear to me was, and that's like as a kid fear, and I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes as adults we kind of strayed away from that. Like we
Yeah.
don't see God as like a hierarchy anymore. We
True.
don't see him at the top,
Yeah.
when the reality is he is above us, and
That's
we
true.
should treat him as
Like,
such.
yeah, I think that that is true. Like, that's like the fear of God is a real thing, and it's talked about over and over in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I think I heard a preacher say one time, everyone wants like God as Savior, but not God as Lord. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like we want Him to save us and have all His love, but do we want to like be obedient?
Mm.
Not so much. That's not as fun.
No, because the reality is that the older you get, the more sin is around you, and the more temptation you got, and then you have to really start thinking like, do I really need to do this or not? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you really have to take pressures and like learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think we're both on the same track with that.
Mm-hmm.
The love of God as well as the fear of Him. And so we see why God was upset. We see
Yeah.
why God was like, this is not cool. And he decided to say, hey, I need to wipe it all out, start all over again.
That's what He said.
Um, and he chose Noah as the beacon for that. Um, Now, just in that alone, like, I don't like if that happened to you, like, would you feel more like like wow, like he chose me, like, oh man, like
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome, versus like would you feel more like, oh crap, like you want me to
Mm-hmm.
do all this,
Mm.
like this is a lot of pressure,
I
like
think
like
probably all of the above.
yeah,
Yeah, it would be like you'd be
like
like, wow, you find me like special and capable. Um, but also it's like, why me? I don't want to do this. Who wants
yeah.
that? It's a burden.
I mean, it seems, yeah, it's a burden, but then like the task just seems like,
Impossible, like
yeah,
you said.
it
Yeah.
seems, like how,
Mm-hmm.
you want me to build this huge arc for all these, you want to build this huge arc, and then you said like we talked about earlier, leave all my family behind. I can only
Right.
take my wife and my sons
Right.
and their wives.
Right.
Like what?
Yeah.
Like
That's.
when people gonna be procreating?
Oh yeah, true. Oh
like
yeah. How does that work?
let's not get into that yet. Like how is
I
that
know we
working?
have all these animals, but we learned in Adam and Eve that that wasn't
Yeah,
suitable.
yeah. Yeah, whatever. Like, we'll talk about that in a
All
minute.
right.
But just like that seems like a wild. I don't know. I just don't like. I think I don't know if my anxiety would come in first or like just like my appreciation. You know,
Do you think you would do it? Like if God told you to do this task, would you do it?
I would question first. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like what we're not supposed to do is that we're not supposed to question God. Supposed to go. But I think my reality of like even just like a now in 2025 when we have all this technology, to me it still sounds like almost impossible.
Well, hold on. Like, I just want to talk about you saying not to question God. I feel like over and over in the Bible, we see people. It's totally natural. It's totally human, and I think God gets it. God understands it, and he answers people's questions. Like, I don't want to go to other stories, but I think it's okay to ask God questions and know that He will answer you, and He will meet you at your point of need, and He will put it in a way for you to understand it. So
True.
if you got questions, ask them.
Ask them, but you still gotta have some faith
Yeah.
in what those things are. And so, pretty much, what does he tell him to do? Um, and so when we go to around 6:9, mind if I skip ahead a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead. You read it.
Okay, let me see. So I just want to talk about this part.
The
And
actual
so,
boat.
so we already talked about how big it is,
Mm-hmm.
which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you had to build like lower, second, third levels,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy. But he said in verse 19, in every living thing of all flesh, you shall bring two of every sort into the ark to keep them alive with you. There shall be male and female,
Oh
of
yeah.
the birds according to their kinds, and of the animals according to their kind, of
Mm-hmm.
every creeping thing on the ground according to its kind. Two of every sort shall come in to you to keep them alive. Also take with you every sort of food that is eaten and store it up. It shall serve as food for you and them. And Noah did all that God commanded him. So, I mean, two of every kind of animal. Let's think about that. Like, I mean, I don't know the statistics on how many animals are on this earth, but
That's a lot.
that's a lot of animals.
Mm-hmm.
And something we had to think about. Me and Friso, we talked about this earlier. It's just like, how was this command made? Like how does everything come to you? Like how
True.
and some of it seems very kind of like methodical and like very just kind of like out this world external.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, think about birds.
Right.
Birds migrate for the winter to warmer climate, and that's all instinct. Oh no, we hear you, baby. Um, and so they migrate to warmer climates,
Right.
and like that's just God's instinct kicking in. And so that's something that I think is already happening. So why could that not happen for every animal? Like to migrate all to the boat at one
Mm-hmm.
time. Or like trout, or I think like, fish, they swim upstream at a
Uh-huh.
certain time of the year. And so it's like, these are possible things.
Yeah,
Because
totally.
they're already happening.
Right. So you're saying that like the migration of the animals, like what we see in how the way that animals migrate today, that could have been like God could have done a form of that to draw these pairs of animals to Noah.
Exactly.
right? Yeah, and that goes on to like what you're saying of like, how is this even possible?
Hmm.
I think something we talked about a while ago too is just like, how did he physically do this? And nowhere in here does it say that like he did it just by himself, right? So he could have got friends, he could have hired people, he could have had help to actually do this. Maybe not that he single handedly did that,
That
right?
would be so wild to help someone else out and then knowing I can't get on that boat. I mean that would
Yeah,
literally
that's
be
wild.
that'd be a wild experience.
But I
But I get it.
but I think the way it feels like it's portrayed is that like people they probably thought he was a crazy
Oh yeah, they
person.
probably just thought it was just like
They
a
didn't
nine
want
to
to
five job. Like, hey, like I'm just
right.
gonna build this thing because he told me to do it.
They
And then
didn't want to get on
yeah,
this boat is what I'm
yeah,
imagining because it says he's basically the only person who's doing right.
hmm,
Everyone was kind of like caught up in their wickedness.
yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if people would have even really been interested on getting on that boat. Now, what I want to know is how did he convince his wife and his sons, and how did they convince their wives? How do you think those conversations went?
Mm, that is
Because it doesn't say that they're necessarily like good and kind and good,
true.
or were they? I don't know.
Yeah, so it feels like God just wanted him to have his like own companions on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Focus was on him, but he was just like, hey, like bring someone. You gotta socialize with someone. You gotta like be with you're gonna be there for what 48, 40 nights, and on. Um, but yeah, he never talks about any good that they did. Like, were they
Mm-hmm.
believers of God? Were
Mm-hmm.
they kind of like also doing good in the earth? Like, did they
Mm-hmm.
participate in any of these like
Mm-hmm.
wicked things? Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's also part of mercy.
Yeah. Or
That he
sometimes
was
you get saved through your
yeah
relationships sometimes as well,
relationships.
right?
You think about your mom, like when your
Exactly.
mom that prays for you.
Exactly. And that's what this is
Like yeah,
too.
like your mom prays for you. You could be doing the worst things in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but how? But that spiritual prayer, that kind of like covering that some
Mm-hmm.
people can do over you,
Mm-hmm.
your loved ones or your friends, like that is actually probably a way of survival,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
out of those type of incidents like this, and
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I mean it's
What's that thing the kids say? I am my ancestors' wildest dreams.
all right.
Kind of like the result of prayers. We are
Mm,
all the result of someone else's prayer.
exactly,
So,
exactly, and so do we have more to cover from this? This is a very quick segment, huh?
did we get it?
For the most part. I said that's why we're doing this like three series or three episodes because each one's a little bit dense in itself,
Mm-hmm.
and so we kind of wanted to cover it very separate. But the idea is
Oh yes, Zendaya.
yes. You
Uh
got
huh.
something to say?
Let me read this verse. Let me
Okay.
read the. Well, let me read this verse to Zendaya, verse 22. So Noah did exactly as God had commanded
Oh yes,
him.
we got
You heard that, Zendaya?
yeah, yes. So that last
Yeah,
part is very is
it's
very big.
crucial. Yeah,
Noah did this. He did all that God commanded him. All that God commanded him.
yeah.
Not just some, but took every last piece of it building together
Mm-hmm.
to actually, move the plan forward. And so that just shows us, it's like when God gives us kind of his own direction and that doesn't fit our own um, path, we can't go halfway in
Mm-hmm.
because going halfway in can be actually detrimental. If you
Right.
only built half the boat,
Oh my gosh! Imagine.
then that thing probably would have sunk in
He.
the second day.
Oh my god! He'd have
Like if
killed the whole family.
get old family, but then also maybe wouldn't give us the certain animals that we have today. Because he
Right.
wouldn't be able to fit them all on the
Mm-hmm.
boat. And so it's like the fact that he did all that God commanded him shows the fact that you know he trusted, he had faith, um, and that's what allowed for this story to like go all the way through. And
Mm-hmm.
so how you feel about that?
I think that's amazing, and I just want to like I just love how specific and detail oriented God was with God's instructions. Make the boat, this is verse 15,
Mm-hmm.
450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that is so specific.
Very specific. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. That's why I don't bake. Baking is very specific, and I'm not good at it. But
so basically, we know Zarin doesn't obey God. I'm just kidding.
Wow. She went from baking to disobeying God. That is wild.
You said you don't bake because you can't follow instructions to the T.
From cupcakes to be disobedient. That's wild. But no, if you don't follow instructions in baking, you don't do it.
Yes, baby girl. All right, let me hold her.
Hey,
you're doing such a good job.
You want to be on the mic?
Yeah, she's on the mic now. Oh, she's grabbing.
Oh Lord! All right.
Okay.
She's like, hurry it up. All right, we got you. But yes,
yeah, the specificity is wild.
Yes.
And sorry, you were on your thought?
No. Like I said, it's if you don't bake it under the correct way, the certain amount of time, the certain heat, the certain amount of ingredients, you're not gonna get the cake.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was very specific to that same concept. Like if he didn't make these cubic, the lengths, all the right measurements,
Mm-hmm.
then the right bolts, the right amount of wood, then the plan would not have gone out. So I think we should be treating God just like that, as baking.
Yeah, I think sometimes people are trying to find it, figure it out, and figure out what that vision is, or the next vision, or the next thing, or the next business, and it's just man. Yeah, if we ask God, listen to God, and ask for this type of specific instruction, then we will be more than good, better than good. So I just think it's such a blessing to have that type of direct communication with God for the vision.
Yep. All right, and so that is building the ark, Noah DIY. Okay, and so. Like I said, this is going to be a 3 parts. We'll have the flood next, and then we'll go to what God's promises was. But we want you to join us. Put some your thoughts in the comments.
Let us know what you know about the fear of God versus the love of God, or how does that work itself out to you and your faith?
Yeah, and then also is there an ark that you're building right now that God told you that you need to do? And so, yeah.
Have you ever done anything that seemed impossible that you just had to do by faith? Yeah.
Yes. And so tune in with us. Like I said, we have our animated series. Go check that out on YouTube. And like always, keep joining us. We want to party. Okay, she's saying get off. Get off, Daddy.
Zendaya right now is grabbing on the cords.
Grabbing on the cords.
Her favorite toy. Exactly. That's not a toy.
All right. Well, we love y'all sincerely. I'm going to pray us on the way out. God, thank you for today. Thank you for bringing us today. Thank you for us learning about Noah and him building the ark, allowing us to understand that God has a mission for us, that God has a plan for us. God has what we seems impossible that is possible, and that we have the idea that we can trust in Him, we can have faith in Him, and we can learn from Him. And so thank you for bringing this message for all of us today, and allow us to have peace throughout the week. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Hallelujah.
All right, y'all. Peace out.
Bye.